I absolutely, without a doubt, love racing games. Always have since the days of Pro-Am back on the NES. And when you love racing games as much as I do, you sometimes find yourself diving deep into the abyss that makes up the genre, leading to some lesser-known games surfacing, some good, some bad. Regardless, today, we're going to take a look at some obscure racing games. In 1996, the PlayStation saw the release of Burning Road, an arcade-style racer developed by Playmates Interactive in the US. Choose from 4 different vehicles ranging from race cars to a monster truck and take to the game's 3 tracks, spanning from beginner to advanced and expert. These tracks can also be unlocked in a reverse format, totaling the game's levels to 6. Just looking at the game, it's pretty hard to deny that it's a blatant Daytona USA ripoff, not so much in its choice of level designs or cars, but just about everything else from the announcer, the HUD, main menu, the gameplay, and even the in-car camera angle looks exactly the same. In fact, this game was even dubbed Dayclona at one point by critics. The biggest difference here is the controllability, as cars are quite loose here, with the tendency to slide all over the road. The level of difficulty is also a bit of a challenge, even on the easiest setting, with cars never staying behind you for long and checkpoint time limits a little unrealistic at harder difficulties. There are only 3 main modes of play, with Practice, Championship, and Link mode, which requires more than one PlayStation and is the only way to play with more than one player. Also, just like Daytona USA, the draw distance here is quite poor, leaving one questioning where the next turn is coming, which is why you'll want to memorize the track layouts, which shouldn't be hard given the limited selection. The best thing that Burning Road has going for it is an awesome soundtrack, and while there aren't many songs here, every one of them is worth listening to. Jet X2O is a 2002 release for the PS2. The game borrows aspects from games like Wave Race 64, as well as the SSX series. There's a decent selection of exaggerated characters with plenty of tood, complete with sarcastic taunts during races, which might bother some, but I find it all rather amusing despite the cheesiness. You can select from different jet skis, all which feature unique attributes like handling, speed, acceleration, and stability. Game modes consist of World Tour, the main mode of play where items can be unlocked as you progress, as well as options for single events and a practice mode called Big Wave. The levels here are actually quite long and feature a lot of nice scenery as well as shortcuts. Settings consist of jungles, mountains, and even cities. The gameplay places heavy emphasis on tricks, which can be performed with the shoulder buttons, with square being a modifier. Performing tricks will not only earn the player points that they'll be graded on post-match, but also earns boost, which can be used with the square button. Despite being on water, controllability is quite polished here, which leads to a pretty stress-free experience. While the visuals are pretty standard for the time, I do have to praise the level of detail seen throughout the stages. If you like games like Wave Race or SSX, check out Jet X2O. From one Wave Race-inspired racer to another, Splashdown was released on the PS2 in 2001 and is the predecessor to Splashdown Rides Gone Wild, an absolute favorite of mine and a game I reviewed a few years back. This version is quite simple compared to its sequel, with levels taking place in real-world locations such as Maui, the Everglades, and Loch Ness, just to name a few. The 8 racers included here all feature unique attributes like handling and acceleration, and just like Jet X2O, they feature dialogue during races. There are 18 different race courses in total, which can be experienced throughout the game's different play modes, including Championship, where the player can unlock items such as tracks, riders, and costumes as they progress. Other game modes include Time Attack as well as Countdown mode, where buoys need to be passed within a certain time limit. Tricks are a vital element of gameplay, as the more tricks that are performed, the more a meter will fill, which in return results in better overall performance of your jet ski. Tricks can be performed by 3 different buttons in combination with directional commands. Handling here is pretty good, but maneuvering sharp turns can take a few races to get used to. The graphics are pretty nice here for an early release, but the game does suffer from the occasional slowdown when too many racers are on screen at once. Overall, it doesn't quite compare to Rides Gone Wild, but it's definitely worth the few bucks it's going for these days. Wreckin Crew is a PlayStation kart-style racer that was released in 1998. Here you have 10 very unique characters to choose from, including the likes of a mad scientist, an old woman, and even a set of conjoined twins. There are 4 main tracks which consist of New York City, Mediterranean, Theme Park, and Sydney. Stages can be played during the day or at night, as well as mirrored. Gameplay modes consist of Arcade, which is a single race, Time Trial, and Competition, which is a 4-race series for the Championship Cup. Each vehicle comes equipped with weapons. You'll see shotguns, blowtorches, and even lightning bolts. But with these weapons being limited to use on the left or right of your vehicle, you won't be using them as much as other weapon-based racers. The controls are a bit tricky to get used to, as these cars do turn quite quickly, but due to almost every turn being a sharp 90 degrees, you'll probably still crash a lot. Visually, they've mixed a lot of 2D and 3D elements into the presentation, similar to what we would see in games like Road Rash for the PlayStation. Overall, it's not really that bad a game, it's just very limited and basic, which leads to a really low replay value. Ray Tracers is a 1997 release for the PS1. The game was developed and published by Taito, the very same people that brought us the Chase HQ series, making this game the spiritual successor. There are 4 cars to choose from right off the bat, with more that can be unlocked as you progress. The game's main mode of play is Chase, and this is where you'll make your way through each of the 3 stages, avoiding obstacles like roadblocks and other vehicles as you race to make the next checkpoint before the time runs out. At the end of each level, you'll face a boss that you need to defeat by ramming into until his health meter has been depleted. The handling is a bit like the Ridge Racer series, with very sharp turns and the ability to drift by using the brakes. You'll also get a limited supply of nitro that can be used in times of despair or to quicker defeat stage bosses. The other gameplay mode is Time Trial. Here you can face off against one other racer or solo in tracks that are exclusive to this mode, as you attempt to beat previous best times. Graphically, everything is a bit blocky, but doesn't suffer from typical pixelation issues like other games from this period. Effects like shadowing and lighting are actually quite nice here, and despite all the chaos occurring, the game maintains a pretty solid frame rate. There's honestly not a whole lot of replay value here, but if you enjoyed the Chase HQ series, you might appreciate Ray Tracers as well. Let's jump over to the Xbox, where we'll take a look at Groove Rider Slot Car Thunder, which was also released on the PS2 and Gamecube in 2003. The first question one might have is, how exactly do you control a car that's fixated to a single line on a track? Well, here you not only control your car's speed, but you also have the ability to move left and right using the triggers, allowing the player to change rows in order to avoid obstacles and earn power-ups. These power-ups consist of items such as speed boosts, shields, mines, and the ability to jump. You'll also want to monitor your speed. As is the case with real slot car racing, your car can and will fly off the track if you're going too fast. Cars are split up in different classes, offering quite the variety and consist of options like classic British cars, stock cars, and Formula X cars, just to name a few. Levels mostly consist of different rooms within a house, such as bedroom, kitchen, and living room. I've always liked the idea of playing the role of a toy or bug or anything small in a seemingly giant world. This isn't by any means a great game. It was intentionally designed to be a budget title, but I definitely feel it's worth at least checking out if you're a die-hard racer like I am. Street Racer was a kart racer that saw numerous releases, including the Super Nintendo in 1994, the Sega Genesis in 1995, and the version we'll be taking a look at today, which was released for the PlayStation in 1996. The characters include some quite interesting selections like Frankenstein, a genie, and a sumo wrestler. There are a total of 24 tracks here, featuring bright and colorful backgrounds and themes, but are quite small. Gameplay is a lot like Mario Kart, but with the inclusion of hand-to-hand combat added in to try to spice things up. There are also special moves that can be performed, like the genie using his magic carpet to fly ahead. In addition, players can also jump, which you'll most likely need to help avoid explosive hazards placed throughout each track. Other items placed throughout levels consist of health pickups and turbos. Playability is decent here, but it's nowhere near as polished as Mario Kart and can become quite competitive at times as well. There's also the option for micro racing, which offers a bird's eye view version of the game and is a bit difficult to control. Along with standard races, there's also the addition of Rumble Mode, which is a demolition derby style battle royal where the objective is to knock your opponent out of the battle zone. If you're a casual kart racing fan, this one might not be for you, but if you can't get enough of the genre, definitely pick it up. Another kart racer for the PlayStation, this one released in 2001, is Story Racer. This one is a little less known due to its late release and doesn't get the credit it deserves. You take control of different Toy Story characters as you face different challenges that present themselves in the way of standard races, a smash mode which is similar to Mario Kart's battle mode, and a knockout race where the last position in each lap is eliminated, as well as quite a few other game modes here. As you progress, you'll collect army men, which are needed to advance to the next set of challenges, and each character features different challenges, meaning you'll find yourself bouncing back and forth between them all to beat the game. The levels here are great, consisting of different locations from the movies, mostly based in or around Andy's house. Each stage also features quite the amount of shortcuts, sometimes one right after the other, making these rather large levels feel even bigger. It is possible to sometimes get lost on where to go as there are no visible tracks, but once you get the hang of things, it becomes more apparent. The controls are a bit slippery for the first time you pick it up, but you should find that after only a few laps, things become a lot easier. Pickups consist of turbos in the form of batteries and weapons that look like wrapped gifts. The music is pretty decent here, and the voice acting is hit or miss as only about half of the movie's actors provided dialogue here, so characters like Buzz Lightyear sound spot on.
You're a better Buzz than I am.
But others like Woody sound pretty ridiculous.
Great driving!
This one is definitely worth a purchase, but has gone up in price a bit over the last few years. Saturday Night Speedway is a 2004 PS2 release that labels itself as a simulation racer. The game combines 3 different classes of stadium racing: classic pro stock cars, late models, and midgets. Each vehicle class features numerous models that perform differently from each other, as well as multiple skins that change your vehicle's appearance. You'll see real-life tracks as well as those designed specifically for the game, and while most of them take place in a stadium setting, there are a few road courses. Along with single races, time trials, and a championship mode, there's also the career mode. Here you'll participate in qualifying races and main heats, and along the way you'll repair and upgrade vehicles, as well as earn sponsorships. Handling is definitely slippery, but you are racing on dirt and mud, so it makes sense, and it's quite easy to get the hang of. In fact, I found it quite addicting to drift around every turn. The engine sounds are spot on and really help bring the action to life. The visuals are actually pretty impressive as well, with cars featuring a lot of detail, in addition to little effects like mud being flung up from the car in front of you hitting the screen. I picked this one up a few years back for $2 complete in box, but it has gone up a bit since then, so if it looks like it might be something you'd like, I'd pick it up sooner than later. In 2000, we saw the release of Mickey's Speedway USA on the Nintendo 64, which I covered in my Nintendo 64 racing games video. Over on the PlayStation, Game Boy Color, and Dreamcast, we saw the release of Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour that very same year. Unlike Mickey's Speedway USA, which takes place across the United States, this game has players racing through the Walt Disney World Resort. You can select from 12 different characters, including the likes of Chip and Dale, Jiminy Cricket, and Bruno Biggs, with names like Mickey, Minnie, Donald, and Goofy mysteriously missing, but they were included in Mickey's Speedway USA, so that might have something to do with it. Since the game takes place at the Magic Kingdom, each stage is themed around attractions at the theme park like the Haunted Mansion, the Pirates of the Caribbean, and Thunder Mountain, with 13 stages in total. Each one of these levels features a lot of detail and actual music featured from the real-life attractions, with a few exceptions. Mario Kart-like weapon pickups are present here by the way of Mickey-shaped balloons and consist of teacups, acorns, and turbos amongst others. Everything controls quite well. I really don't have any complaints here. My only gripe would be that the game can be a little difficult at times, but it's bearable. This is one of the better kart racers in this video, so definitely check it out if you get the chance. Pac-Man World Rally is another kart racer that was released on numerous platforms. This is the Gamecube version, which was released in 2006. Ever since the creation of Mario Kart, many developers have tried to duplicate Nintendo's success, and that's exactly what they tried to do here as well. You can select from different characters in the Pac-Man series as you take to levels that represent numerous settings like jungles, deserts, haunted houses, and even a level based on the Katamari series. Races are set up in a Cup Series format with 4 races each, and there's also a battle mode. Like other kart racers, there are weapon pickups scattered throughout each stage that can help the player gain an advantage over enemies, which really shouldn't be a problem as the AI isn't very aggressive here. There's also fruit located in stages that will open up shortcuts once collected. In addition, there are pack dots that need to be gathered in order to perform a special move in which the character turns into Pac-Man and the rest of the racers turn into blue ghosts, a nod to the original game. While level designs are decent, characters are diverse, and graphically everything looks pretty good, it's still not quite the experience that games like Mario Kart or Crash Team Racing offer, but it's nice to have in your collection if you're a fan of the genre or the Pac-Man franchise. TNN Motorsports Hardcore Heat was a launch title for the Sega Dreamcast. It's an arcade-style off-road racer that offers 2 different classes of vehicles, including dune buggies and trucks. Each vehicle can be modified from suspension to tires to brakes and even decals. Though there are only 6 tracks in total, each stage features diverse environments and numerous terrains, including pavement, snow, dirt, mud, and sand. Just like most titles on this list, the game modes consist of Championship, Time Attack, and Practice. Visually, the game is hit or miss, with stages and vehicles looking quite impressive, but effects like sand and mud being kicked up from the tires, as well as vehicle shadowing, looking a bit bizarre. but the frame rate remains pretty solid here. The gameplay mechanic isn't perfect, consisting of some pretty awkward handling, but after a short period of time it should become quite easy to get used to and actually kind of addicting. This is a pretty basic racer that seems a bit out of place on the Dreamcast next to games like Sega Rally 2, but nevertheless makes a nice addition to your Dreamcast racing collection. And those are some racing games that you might not have heard of. Are there any obscure racers that you can think of? If so, let me know in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching my videos, and we'll see you next time.